Alright, you primitive screwheads, listen up.
Oh my god, I smell shenanigans!
I have no idea what's going on, but I am excited.
Yeah, baby, yeah!
You ever dance with the devil in the pale moonlight?
Inconceivable! Cowabunga.
I thought this was a party.
It's two Nerskis and a podcast.
With Eric
And Jeff.
Next level.
Alright, well, hey everybody. Welcome to a brand new installment of Two Nerdskis and a Podcast. You know, the one show where two nerdskis come together and talk about everything pop culture and entertainment, of course. I am one of your nerdskis. I'm Eric. So this has been long overdue, to be fair. So today you're going to watch Fight Club, and you're going to notice quite a few things. So this episode was actually recorded all the way back in November, and then it was meant to come out a lot sooner, but you know, there's a lot of things that came out. I'll get more into it after the episode itself, but can definitely talk about it itself here too. But you know, it's going to be interesting to watch, because the movie today we're talking about here is Fight Club, and unfortunately Jeff was not here for this episode. He was really busy at the time, and so I got my lovely guest co-hosts, Marshal and Shawn. They're the lovely hosts of their own respective YouTube channel. It's called Philosophy of Gaming. They talk about everything video games and what is it that makes a video game and the art behind it all. And so they're fantastic guests to have on. We had a really great, interesting conversation about Fight Club in general, and I think it got kind of, I wouldn't say philosophical, but it was very much. Fight Club is very much a movie that is still relevant to this day, and hopefully this conversation that you're about to either listen to, if you have any listening platforms, or if you're watching on YouTube, awesome too. You're about to see, it's going to be a really interesting episode. I really think, and I think it's definitely a very fine conversation for sure. And so Jeff actually does make a couple cameos. You're going to hear a text. You're going to hear my phone go off for text messages. That's actually Jeff texted me at the time about, I think it was about his project. But since then, but yeah, I will update you afterwards, and then we'll go from there. So I'll catch up with you after the actual conversation itself. Let's see how me, Marshall, and Shawn break the first two rules of Fight Club.
You do not talk about Fight Club.
Welcome, everybody, to a brand new installment of Two Nerdskis and a Podcast, where today we're going to be breaking some rules. I'm keeping that. Anyways, you'll notice today that me here, Eric, and unfortunately, Jeff's not here with us. Jeff gives us his blessing to continue on without him. To be fair though, Jeff is like, his schedule and our schedules are so like kind of like worked up right now. We're kind of like all over the place. So Jeff sends his love, and I invite everyone to please check out his work at Midnight Boardwalk Productions. He's got a really great short film out called Vengeance that I encourage everyone to check out. But so in the meantime, in his absence today, I have two very fellow fond gentlemen here. They run a little small video game channel, and also occasionally I edit some of their videos sometimes.
About half.
Yeah, about half. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, my co-hosts, special guest co-hosts today, Marshall and Shawn. Gentlemen, how are you?
We're doing good, man. It's good to be on the show. We're glad we get to do one with you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Too bad your counterpart isn't there.
Yeah, it is a shame that Jeff's not here, but like I said, like he's really busy with stuff right now, and he will be back, I will say. And so I think he's also very much looking forward to seeing how this discussion pans out.
As are we.
With the three of us.
Yeah,
so
we're excited.
So, but anyways, before we actually kind of get started, so I kind of wanted to ask, so what is your channel, Pog Gaming, and what is it all about, and how come you started that channel? And also the most important question, how the hell did I come to be part of this enterprise?
I'll tell that story. You tell the first one.
Yeah, so the idea for philosophy of gaming, I like to listen to myself talk, and I also like video games, and I'm very opinionated about things. I always thought it would be fun to do a video game channel, but I wanted to not just do a typical one. I wanted to do a channel where where I would talk a lot more about like philosophy, kind of like the sentimental messages behind like stories and games like that, and try to have a little bit more of like a positive spin on things, and actually try to do a good job. Not try to look like a lot of like the amateur video game channels that are out there. So one day I called up my good friend, my childhood friend Marshall, and I said, hey, I don't know anything about tech. Do you want to help me do this YouTube channel thing? And he was all like, yes, but I don't want to just do tech. I want to be all in, 50-50 partner with you. This has been a dream of mine too. And then it just turned out to be like the best like experience, I think, of both of our lives as far as something like this goes. It's just been really good. It's been an uphill grind trying to learn everything there is about making videos and trying to get a following. We're obviously still working on that, but yeah, so far we love it. And then of course we have you as our editor. And Marshall, how do we find him?
Yeah, so we put out an ad on Craigslist, the companionship section.
Man seeking a woman, or a woman seeking man.
That's
or
right. Yeah.
Man seeking man, woman seeking whatever.
No, we had a good mutual friend that knew Eric and was able to get us connected, and it's been perfect since day one. So he gets us, he gets it. He likes to talk crap about us, and he shows it in the videos he edits for us. So it's been a blast.
And not to fluff up your feathers a little bit too much and kiss your ass here, Eric, but I will say this. Philosophy of Gaming would not be what it is today without you. And so we appreciate all the hard work that you put into it as well.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate that. Actually, I have to thank you for giving me the opportunity to be your editor. I mean, to be fair, I haven't edited all your videos. I've only edited anything that
is important.
Yeah, our other editor is a lot better.
I guess
he's referring to himself. Yeah.
Actually, can I just say real quickly right off the bat, Marshall, I think actually when I'm not editing your videos, I actually think, because you're the one who's usually editing like all the Nuzlocke, which are their runs on Pokemon, and then you guys do all your stuff on whatchamacallit, other videos. Like the bet was pretty great. I also enjoyed watching Shawn repeatedly getting his ass kicked in Super Smash Bros. Constantly.
Every single one of those was a fluke. Every one.
Yeah, 4 in a row. Huh?
Except for the ones that I won. Those ones were legit.
But I have to say, in all seriousness, I think, Marshall, you actually do a pretty good job on the editing yourself.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's still some rough bits here and there, but I remember you asked me about some editing tips, and I was like, yeah, I'm more than happy to help you out with this. And so, yeah, I don't know if necessarily you want to learn too much, because then I might be out of a job, but okay, whatever.
Hey, don't get me wrong, I don't want to do it.
But
okay. I have gotten a lot better over the course of this year. I have never edited before.
Yeah, you really have.
And I enjoy it. The biggest thing that I think what you help with is the memes. You're good at making fun of us and each other, and really bringing a cohesive video together, having not just the memes, but the pop-up references and things that we bring up. I mean, it just makes it that much cleaner and smoother.
Otherwise, it's just a video of just us talking forever and ever. It's
that's what I would do. I would be able to put a video of us talking forever and ever together.
Marshall's editing experience just goes to splicing things together, and that's it.
Yeah,
Thanks, guys.
I'll admit, I go a little bit above and beyond the call for some of the stuff I've done for you guys.
We appreciate it.
Where's that additional big fat bonus I've been asking for? Anyways, okay.
Where's our first check?
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. Well, anyways, guys, thank you for coming on and joining today's episode. So, I mentioned that we're breaking some rules, and so today we are talking about very interesting classic. I say classic because truly it is a modern filmmaking classic or film classic. It is, of course, David Fincher's, I think it's his third film, but anyways, it's David Fincher's adaptation of Fight Club, which was originally written by Chuck Palahniuk back in 1996, adapted for screen in 1999, and of course stars Edward Norton and Brad Pitt, along with Helena Bonham Carter, Jared Leto, and Meatloaf. Whole cavalcade cast of characters. Actually, so it's funny. I was thinking about this earlier. It's like, so recently I did actually physically make an appearance on Pog Gaming on your series Blank or No, which is all about like whether or not certain subjects in video games are a good idea or whatnot. And my brainchild was talking about adaptations. And Shawn, you were very adamant on being a hard no on adaptations.
Yeah.
So this was sort of like, because this is an adaptation of a book. And we were more so talking about adaptations of video games and vice versa and stuff or whatnot. And you said that, like, controversially, in my opinion, although it is an interesting, actually good question that you brought up, was that adaptations are a sign of the death of art, as you put it.
Yeah.
So, Shawn, I posed the question to you. And I also posed this question to Marshall as well. As an well, maybe not just as an adaptation, but just overall, what are your overall thoughts on Fight Club? Because this is a movie that definitely is not for everyone. I am going to say that right off of the bat, because I've talked to people who have seen Fight Club. So first of all, I absolutely love the crap out of this movie, but I'll get into how I got into it. But like, what is kind of like, how did you guys like first discover Fight Club, and like what do you guys think about it? Whoever wants to take the reins first.
I'll go ahead and start off. I don't know how I first saw it. It's just kind of like there's a list of movies that are pretty popular and famous that everybody watches, so eventually you just get around to watching it. I've watched it years ago and many times since. I like the movie a lot. It's got very like dark undertones, which is kind of interesting. It's also one of those like mindfuck movies where it's just like when you see it for the first time, you just don't really know exactly what's going on. But the thing that I love the most about the movie, which I know that this is something that we're going to probably unpack a lot more, is that movies always have like an underlying message or symbolism behind it. And a lot of movies are pretty subtle in their messaging, but Fight Club is not one of those movies. It is in your face, explicit in the messaging that is being portrayed in the movie. And it actually provides a lot of good brain food. And I think that's one of the main reasons why I like it a lot. As a separate note, I think that the cast is incredible in how they did it. And especially, what's her name? Helena Carter or whatever.
Yeah.
Helena Carter, yeah. I think that her performance in Fight Club is probably one of the top 10 best performances in any movie. Like, she did such a phenomenal job portraying the character of Marla Singer, and it just blew my mind with how good that she did.
That's fascinating that you say that, because I mean, I definitely agree that like Helena's performance as Marla is great. Like, because Marla is not that typical like female like direct antagonist or secondary protagonist that you usually see in like any stories. Like, she is very much she's not a woman you want to mess with, but she has a tender side as well, and she very much has a very messed up sense of like humor, as it were. But yeah, I've never heard that kind of praise about Marla before, but
look at the character. She's a hot mess. She has this terrible outlook on life. She's just flawed and broken, and I mean, I feel like that's actually kind of a hard essence to capture in a character, and I think the actress just did a phenomenal job at doing that.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. Helena does a really good job, but okay, so Marshall, I haven't heard your opinion yet. What do you think?
First of all, when did you first watch Fight Club for the first time?
The first time I watched Fight Club was less than 24 hours ago.
Oh, man.
I have known about it for a long time. I've always wanted to watch it, but never found the right time to. I watched it. I did not expect it to be what it is in any way. which is shocking because you see clips all the time, but I just didn't expect it. It was unbearable. It's
okay. So this is going to be a really fascinating.
I don't know if it is because I don't have a lot to say. I'm going to probably say it all right now.
Well, no, I think it's going to be interesting just because it's going to because it sounds like me and Sean have a pretty similar opinion on this movie, but it's going to be interesting to have a dissenting opinion. So please, I want to hear this.
Yeah, please silence your cell phones over there. I'm kidding. So I think that the biggest problem I have with it is it brings a big sense of despair to the viewer, not just like what's happening, but it really, I don't know, it just brought me down in a weird way. And they did a very good job at making that feeling happen. I think that was partially the intention. I think so too. It's very dark. It's clearly got a filter on it that makes it seem even darker. The actual filming of the movie was done really well. That house that they went to, or that he goes to, that he moves in with
on Paper Street,
that house is disgusting.
You mean the piece of shit derelict house?
Yeah,
Yes.
it's disgusting. And it was very well put together, but I found listening to the narrator unbearable. I found the despair part unbearable. I found the way that they put the scenes together to be very difficult to watch. I understand why it was a box office failure and then became a cult classic. I get that. I didn't like it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, this is okay. So
I can almost guarantee I will never watch it again.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that you're touching upon. I'm glad that we have an actual dissenting opinion on this. So, I guess real quickly for me then. So obviously, yes, this is actually one of my all-time favorite movies of all time. But I mean, I knew about this movie quite a bit, just because you're growing up in the '90s and then into the early 2000s, and I knew there was advertisement for a lot of all this all over the place, obviously, and then. I don't know if it was either high school, maybe the tail end of high school for me, or maybe I got into college, is when I finally watched the movie itself, and I was very fascinated by everything. I unfortunately knew the twist ahead of time of what the connection between the narrator and Tyler is, which we'll get into. But I guess what we should really talk about real quick is just just for people who don't know, so Fight Club is about a nameless protagonist. We don't really know his name, but he works at an automobile insurance company. Yeah. He's like a recall specialist, and he's feeling like very unfulfilled in his life. He can't feel anything. He feels like emasculated, as it were. He tries to go to support groups to feel anything, any emotion. It works for a while, and then he meets Marla, who also is slinging support groups to fill things, and he starts to lose it too. Along the road, he meets Tyler Durden, who is this traveling soap salesman and does several other odd jobs. And after the narrator's condo gets blown up, then he goes to live with Tyler. They decide to form a fight club, if you will, for men, because it's a way for them to feel emotion, to feel connected, to feel like men again. And then all of a sudden, Tyler decides he's going to. Tyler's very much a character who very much believes in the hunter-gatherer sense of the world or whatnot, and decides he wants to take the world, take everything back for man, as it were. And then the narrator's just kind of caught in the crossfire of what the hell did I get myself into? And it's a really interesting kind of deconstruction of here at the central core of Fight Club really is this. What does it actually mean to be a man? That is really kind of the idea I've really learned. I mean, originally it was it really is also a really interesting deconstruction of how consumerism has just kind of ruined, I wouldn't say ruined, but basically has changed how we perceive things and stuff or whatnot. We want to be this, but instead we're stuck in this kind of scenario or whatnot. And so what do we do? How do we gain our individualism? How do we gain our sense of masculinity, that sort of thing? various questions about this movie have been asked ever since it's been released, and it's over 20 years since this movie has come out, and that's kind of the testament of this movie to this date. So so I guess we can kind of jump off on that if it were. So yeah.
Well, are you gonna not finish the summary and actually say what the twist at the end is? Because if you're watching this video, you should obviously have seen the movie to know what we're talking about. So do you want to spoil the ending and give that part of the summary too?
Okay, yeah, this is like a 20-year-old movie. Okay,
yeah.
Spoiler alert. Here's what happens. So anyone who doesn't want to anyone who wants to watch this, in a short summary, me and Shawn love it. Not so much Marshall. I get that. But anyways, the spoilers. So as a result of the narrator trying to because he feels so emasculated, he doesn't know how to think for himself. He doesn't know how to like love or have sex or anything like that. All of his frustrations have formulated into a second persona that looks how he wants to look. He fucks like he wants to fuck. He is smart and capable, and most importantly, he is free in all the ways that he is not. That persona is Tyler Durden, and that's correct. The biggest twist of the movie is the narrator and Tyler are merely the same man in a more dissociative identity disorder kind of thing.
Like a split personality, yeah.
Yeah, very much a split personality, and it's very much that was one of the biggest twists that's considered one of the best all-time movie twists of all time. Is it's up there with Bruce Willis was a ghost the whole time in Sixth Sense. It's
Vader was Luke's father.
Yeah, Luke. Yeah, Luke. I'm your father. That sort of thing. So yeah, that is one of the biggest things. And so when you learn that, you realize that so this is kind of like a what is it? Yeah, what does it actually mean to be a man? That is the overall question. Are we do we feel like we're being brought down by society through consumerism? Do we feel like all these expectations of on people have emasculated men? All these images and stuff or whatnot. Well, all these images this is what you can be, or this is what you can do, or stuff. That's a lot of the questions that Fight Club brings up, and so. That is the journey of the narrator as he learns to what does it actually be to be a man, and how does he find his center, as it were. So that's really kind of the question I pose.
Yeah, so are you kind of asking, I'm guessing, me to kind of start unpacking a little bit of that, or?
Well, yeah, because I mean, definitely, I want to hear your thoughts first, and then I kind of want to and then we can dive really into it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, as far as the plot of the movie goes, I think that the central messaging behind the movie is, like you said, it's kind of the question of what does it mean to be a man. But I think it comes at it from an angle of addressing the problems that we see in the culture a lot of times.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think that the two core issues with that is the problem of consumerism, like you said, and then also the demasculinization of men. And both of these problems manifest themselves into the narrator, and then Tyler Durden comes along, and he's a fascinating character because when it comes to him, how would I say it? Diagnosing the problem, he is actually 100% exactly right. He articulates it very well, but when it comes to his solutions to that problem, he is exactly wrong. So
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so hitting on the consumerism part again, the messaging is very explicit. In the beginning of the movie, the narrator is talking about all of his IKEA furniture and how he has to have everything. And then I think it's one of the famous lines that Tyler Durden says when he first sits down and has that beer with the narrator, and he says that eventually the things that you own will end up owning you.
That definitely is a very good line. I agree.
I think that's very obviously captured throughout the movie very early on, and of course at the end during Project Mayhem, he's trying to take down the credit card companies as a way of bringing down consumerism. Again, right idea on the problem, wrong solution, right? And I don't actually think it needs. I mean, we can deep dive that a little bit more, I guess, as far as consumerism and the problem that does have. It basically makes us materialistic, living unfulfilled lives. I mean, if you live your life surrounded by stuff and then you die, your stuff isn't going to miss you when you're gone. So it's ultimately just an empty way of living your life, which is very easily and well portrayed in the movie. Now, the other side of it, the demasculinization of men, and this is actually kind of, I think, the bigger theme to the movie. It's actually right off of the bat too. When Edward Norton goes to the different like therapy groups, and he ends up in the testicular cancer group where he meets Meatloaf.
Yep, where he meets Bob.
That's
he
right.
meets Bob with the big bitch tits.
That's right. His name was Robert Paulson. The movie kind of makes it seem like he's not where he's supposed to be because he doesn't have testicular cancer. But when you look there, he's actually just surrounded by a bunch of men that are demasculated, and yet so is he. So it's almost like he's in exactly the right place that he needs to be to try to find that comfort. But then as his relationship with Tyler develops, you can see a lot of the underlying problems that contribute to the demasculinization of men. A lot of it having to be with, they both say, even though Tyler's stories are fabricated, right, because he's not technically real, but they both have problems with their father. They both want nothing to do with having like a woman in their life. Like, I think there's the scene like when they're in like the bathroom or whatever, and Tyler says something along the lines of, we live in a world where like women,
we live in a world full of women.
Yeah,
maybe a woman
is not the answer that we need.
Exactly the answer.
Yeah, exactly. So like he's kind of, I think that he's wrong about that, because the problem with the demasculizing men part, that is a real problem that we have, but then the answer to that isn't becoming hyper masculine to the point where it's considered toxic, because men by their nature, filled with testosterone, are physically strong, aggressive, barbaric, uncivilized. And so as a man, what do you do with all of those tendencies? You can either just become a brute and abuse everybody around you, especially women, or you can use all of that and channel it towards something positive. And what you realize when you watch the movie is that Edward Norton, the narrator, starts idolizing Tyler Durden throughout that whole process. And then the second he actually starts developing feelings towards Marla, and the woman actually starts affecting him, then he actually starts becoming kind of like the real man. So men need to be civilized by women, and by rejecting having a woman in your life to kind of anchor yourself, you're going to become the toxic Tyler Durden part. Obviously, that movie is a wild extreme to how real life actually works.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
But that's also the point, though, too, is that I think that it's like you said, Tyler Durden was created by the narrator to be everything that he wants to be. But then again, we don't know what we actually want to be. It takes a little bit of humility and hard life lessons to actually get onto the right path. And I think this movie, in a very extreme way, portrays that.
Yeah, no, I definitely have a lot to agree with you, and I would definitely like to expand on that part too. But before I do, Marshall, do you have anything to add?
It's all right. I mean, everything that has been said thus far is correct. It's just a very artistic way to show it. Just not my cup of tea.
Yeah, no, again, I totally get that, because again, this movie definitely, like I said, not for everyone. Like, this is definitely a movie that, I mean, like, let me put it this way. Like, for example, like, one of the things that will probably turn people off is like, so Tyler is a night person, right? He has two jobs. One of these jobs, he's a movie projectionist. Yes, and like, he decides, in order to make time bearable, he's going to slice. I don't care. Like, by the way, I don't care about these. I don't care about monetization. But he decides he's going to like split very interesting scenes into child family films, and then like for a brief second, you'll catch a glance or glimpse.
Pick a word.
Glimpse. You'll catch a glimpse. I'm having some really stubborn problems. You'll catch a glimpse of Tyler's contribution to the film, and there it is, a nice big cock.
Wow.
Nobody
really
knows they saw it, but they did.
The whole script of this movie.
Yeah. Nobody knows they saw it, but they did.
Yeah.
And like so much so that at the very end, right as the film is like fading out, there it is,
Yeah.
a nice big cock.
Yeah.
But it's actually funny. So it's like there's a lot of like subliminal like kind of messaging that's like in there too. But what I before I dive into my like kind of like expanding on what Sean's saying, real quick too, a lot of people like if you're wondering like if the movie's glitching at the beginning, it's because no, you're not imagining it. That actually happened. So there are like moments when you see that the narrator's talking about like how his life is like everything is a copy of a copy of a copy, and then you'll see like a split second of what looks like to be Tyler Durden forming or whatnot, and you're just like, is this movie okay? And you're like, nope, that's actually happening. That is the formula in my mind, and that my interpretation, that is him creating Tyler Durden from his frustrations, like slowly the remnants of what will be Tyler Durden will form.
But also part of that too is because he suffers from insomnia, so he's not fully asleep, not fully awake, as he says in the movie. So he's almost kind of like he's hallucinating, which is I think actually a point that he makes in the movie too.
And you learn, and like when you learn the twists, and he explains the night jobs, it's probably because the reason why he has insomnia. Well, maybe so, but maybe the thing is like the reason why he has insomnia is because maybe Tyler has started to emerge, and therefore he has all these second jobs of like working as a banquet waiter at the prestigious hotel. I forget what. Preston Hotel, or Pressman Hotel, and then like he's also working as a film projectionist. So that maybe Tyler formulating, and he stays up all night to make soap. And how do they make soap? From a liposuction clinic.
That part
it's
was
pretty
so
messed up how they
gross.
make the soap.
Yeah, so nasty.
It is pretty. I mean, like remember when they crawl over like when they try to get
The concertina wire and all the fat drips all over him.
And you're just like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's filthy.
Well, then it also leads to like one of the really big like scenes in the movie where it's like you have to accept that God doesn't like you. You have to accept that you need to hit rock bottom in order to be a man. That's when Tyler applies a chemical burn to the narrator, and he's like, it's okay, I can pour this chemical on you, but you have to accept that life sucks.
Yeah,
so
another one of
that's
like
one of the best scenes too.
I forgot to actually mention that part when I was talking before. I think that's also kind of like another part, like where like Tyler is hinting at something that's right, but then his answer to that is
something completely wrong.
Yeah, is actually totally wrong. Like the having a bad family, fatherless home, rejection of anchoring yourself to a woman, rejection of God, like all those sorts of things. Not the answer for the problems that you're having.
Oh, absolutely. I definitely agree with that too. I mean, you want to talk about like ways of like trying to feel like to be a man. Let's talk about the formation of Fight Club itself. So like after the condos burn down, after they have their drinks at the bar at Lou's Tavern, then Tyler says like, "Hey, I want you to hit me as hard as you can."
Yeah.
And he's like, "What? I want you to hit me as hard as you can." Fun fact. So when Edward Norton punches Brad Pitt, that is actually Edward Norton punching Brad Pitt. He was actually aiming for the face, but unfortunately because his fist was off, he hits him in the ear for real. That is Brad Pitt's genuine like reaction to like, what the fuck? You hit
so
me
they
in
just
the
kept
ear.
the camera rolling, huh?
Yeah, they kept the camera rolling, and then just like, it's like when you're watching The Dark Knight and like when the Joker blows up the hospital, right? And like the explosion stops, he's just like, what the hell? And Edward Norton's like, no, keep rolling. I think this is gold that we've got here.
Yeah.
One of those nice little tidbits. But so going off of what you were talking about, Sean, I totally agree with you on a lot of the points you talked about, because the truth of the matter is like, so allow me to go on sort of a modern day kind of perspective how life is right now.
Sure.
So like we've gone through like we've gone through like a big giant election of 2016 that panned out, and then we had a pandemic for about 2 years, arguably still going on, but it's definitely settled down in places. But here in America, it's definitely, but tensions and turmoil all time high. and then like you've gone to this point, you know, like as a result of like, you know, where we are as a society, men feel more alone and not as masculine as they used to feel anymore, and so they look for like guidance to be like a better person or a better man, and so then you have like, so little thing about me, I like to really deep dive into like the internet. I'm really into like, I don't know why I do this to me, I go really deep into like rabbit holes, and so I learned about the manosphere and the whole red pill thing. So like, long story short, the manosphere is basically an online collection of like content creators or just people online. This is how I've seen it, who basically are like, yes, men have issues, women are the problem. That's kind of like how I've seen, or like how I've seen it and what I've observed from my research and so into it. And so you have a lot of these red pill types. So these are guys who are saying that like, I've broken the matrix as it will, and I will teach you how to like take control back of your life, and I will teach you how to pick up women and conquer them. It's basically what I'm trying to say. It's Conan, what is best in life? To crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and to hear the lamentation of the women. That's red pill mentality. And so you have all these young directionless men who see these guys and look up to them as like father figures or brotherly type figures, and they're like, yeah, this is the way to go. And they look to Fight Club as sort of like a Bible of like how to like take back their lives. And I'm like, do they not realize that Fight Club was written by a gay man? Very much a kind of person that I think that community would be against. And like, they've completely missed the point.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's
Club.
also not the point of the movie. The point is the opposite in a way.
Exactly.
It's about not going too far.
Exactly. Like, yeah. I mean, like, but it does still raise a point. Like, you know, like men. It's not just men too. I would say even women. Like we're all dealing with like struggles of like, what does it mean to be a human or a man or a woman? What does it mean? Are we like who we are? Are we defined by consumerism? Are we defined by the things that we own? Do they own us? That sort of stuff. Like, it's not just men, it's women everywhere. And so what this movie is really teaching you is that like, we're really trying to convey, it's like, no, what we're really trying to do is to show you that like, this is how you really achieve balance. You learn to accept who you are, you learn to accept your faults, but learn to improve on yourself, this sort of thing.
And taking the extremes, this is going to end you up living in a shack that's got, you know, water filling up.
Yeah. Can I go ahead and chime in off of what you were just talking about there, Eric?
What was that?
Can I go ahead and chime in on of some of the points
go
you were
ahead.
just making? I would have to plead a little bit of ignorance when it comes to the idea of the manosphere. I've heard of it, but I don't like sit there and like rabbit hole things on the internet, but I know that that's definitely a thing. And I think that does actually speak to part of the problem. So you just said like both men and women, everybody is trying to find ways to define themselves. What does it mean to be a man? What does it mean to be a woman? What are we actually looking for? I think the answer to that is that what we actually need is purpose. I think there's a lack of purpose in broader society these days. And that's the thing, is like, you need purpose to live a fulfilling life. You need challenges, and then you need to overcome them. But you also need to be grounded in something. And I think a big part of the problem, and I think consumerism is a part of it, but consumerism has actually bred an even greater problem that consumerism doesn't even come close to. And that is the age of the internet, where everybody goes to these corners of the internet, and and especially kids are being raised by the internet. And there's just all of these ideas out there floating around. You find something that resonates with you and then cling to it. And that doesn't mean that that idea is necessarily healthy. So you find men that have been, or, you know, young men, boys, teens, whatever, that do feel that feeling of despair. Despair, by the way, isn't just like a way of like sadness or anything like that. It actually is a word with a meaning, and the meaning of it is a sense of purposelessness. That's pretty much what despair means, right? So people go to places on the internet and they see these hyper masculine guys that are charismatic, kind of like the Tyler Durdens of the world. There's a couple of real world examples.
I was going to bring something like this up, but go ahead, keep going with this.
Yeah, and so they don't know any better. And a problem with that is, again, not having a stable family life at home. A young man, from the time that he is a boy, needs a father in the house to teach him how to channel some of the more aggressive and barbaric aspects of what it means to be a male in this society, and channel that towards something with purpose. And for men, that means service, right? You can join the military. That's a great way to channel that sort of that masculinity. Get married and, put yourself to work to be a provider for your family, serve your community. But just living in a room, listening to the internet, thinking that you're going to try to find role models on the internet, they're just as lost as you are too. Not a very good combination for a healthy society, for sure.
I would agree. I would definitely agree on that part, which is kind of and it's funny that like Fight Club kind of predicts all of that too, right? Because that is the whole point. Because eventually Tyler decides that like he's going to take Fight Club a step further, and that's where Project Mayhem comes in, right? So Project Mayhem is basically his way of like, this is how I'm going to take society back for men, and we're going to do it by causing a lot of mayhem. And like, I love the montages, by the way, of like how they do it. Like if you guys remember Blockbuster, I miss Blockbuster. And then like they'll basically like destroy all the videotapes. With like whatever the hell it is they're doing. They'll like feed a shit ton of like bird feed to pigeons, and then you'll see that all the nice new cars that are on sale are all shit on by the birds. You have like a rolling you blow up like this fountain ball, and it rolls into a coffee shop meant to be a Starbucks, but Starbucks was also like a spot, like funding part of this movie too. And by the way, there's almost like a Starbucks cop in like every single scene of the movie. Not every single scene, but the point is that like that's part of the subliminal messaging of consumerism. But the point is like that was supposed to be a Starbucks, but they couldn't do that because whoops. But that's kind of the thing too, isn't it, Sean? Like you have Tyler Durden, who is, he says like, here, you need to find purpose for yourself. You guys are lost. You need to think for yourselves. What do these guys do? They instead follow Tyler Durden to the word. The whole point, they say like, first rule of Project Mayhem is that you do not ask questions, and you're like, that is bullshit.
It's a cult,
it's very much a cult, and that's kind of like what the whole like Manosphere Red Pill thing is. It's like a cult. That is how I've come to see it. Like you have all these like figures that are at the forefront. Yes, I would include a certain former kickboxer turned pimp, or alleged pimp, as it were, like into the mix. I would throw. People have also thrown Dr. Jordan Peterson into the mix as well.
Unfairly, I think that his advice is actually sound and solid.
Yeah, it's a lot different than Tate.
For his psychology stuff, I agree, but it's everything else that I kind of like am a little bit iffy on. But that's like a whole other subject.
I'm kind of curious though, like what exactly is like kind of iffy about it though? Because I think a lot of
Sean quoted him word for word earlier.
Yeah, because like a lot of what he says is actually like the healthy way of channeling like masculinity. Like Andrew Tate, no, not so much. I think that Andrew Tate is actually a lot like Tyler Durden, where he's right about a lot of things,
much so, yeah.
but then has the wrong answers to the
execution
to the problems, right? But where Jordan Peterson, his whole messaging is basically, as a man, grow up. Voluntarily take on responsibilities, develop a sense of duty, and get married and have a family. And when we talk about purpose, I think that there's really, when you talk about the purpose of a human, is to keep the human species going so that you don't become extinct, and you do that by having kids. So that one of the most fulfilling ways of achieving fulfillment and purpose is to have a family. I remember kind of going a little bit off tangent here.
I mean, it can be one way to fulfill yourself, but let me finish your thought first before I say anything.
Okay, yeah. So like I remember I saw this. I don't know if it's like considered a meme or what, but it was like this graphic that I saw somewhere on social media. It's a silhouette of a man, white background, black silhouette of a man, and his whole body is made up of puzzle pieces, mostly put together, but there's a few of them missing. And then there's a silhouette of a child who's also made up of puzzle pieces, but he's actually mostly empty. And you see the man handing a puzzle piece to the child. And I love that metaphor because it's basically saying that a man, a father, a parent gives themselves to the child to let them take their place and try to make the world, a better place. That's what legacy is about. And again, that goes kind of to the consumerism point a little bit too. Like I said in the very beginning of this, if you live your life just pursuing like monetary sort of success and achievement, not that there's anything wrong with that, but if that becomes the whole drive of your life, just to be surrounded by your
purpose, there's no
to be surrounded by your material possessions. If you have a very high paying job, you're a CEO of a company, you have all these cool toys, all of your inanimate objects are not going to miss you when you're gone. Your company is going to end up replacing you. Your company might take a stock hit real quick, then it'll bounce back up. But if you have kids and a family, you're leaving behind a bunch of people that are actually going to miss you. You become an irreplaceable part in somebody else's life, and that is far more meaningful than any sort of consumerism or materialistic goals. And I think that that's a point that Jordan Peterson makes a lot too.
Right. No, and like I get that quite a bit, but I'm also the kind of, so without going too much into things, like I've recently, so I'll just say this so I don't go too personal into it, but like for me, I had a sort of a mental kind of like breakdown at the end of last year, and like I was kind of feeling a little bit lost and everything, and I actually started therapy as a result of it, and once I went in, I just opened like a whole can of worms and everything, and like therapy really helped me realize that like, oh yeah, helped me realize where kind of the revelations of like who I was and like how much I actually really hated myself and what I wanted to do. And so as a result, I've started to become more creative. Part of me too is like, so I'm going to reveal this part of myself. I've been single pretty much my entire life. And that's something I can talk about a lot more. But the point is like, because of therapy, I've learned to be more accepting of being single in terms of like, cause maybe I'm just, you can live a very fulfilling. I definitely see what you're going with, Shawn, for sure, and I definitely can see how that can be a benefit. But I can also definitely see the benefits of like, and I also see where people can live a full, long, successful, like fulfilled life without maybe a family. They can maybe have a partner or so, and they can feel fulfilled. They can want to go travel the world and stuff. Maybe they don't want to have kids. I get that. I don't know necessarily if I want to have kids myself at one point, that sort of thing. Passing on the legacy, the whole puzzle pieces, as it were, as you said, Shawn. But that would be my counter argument, is that like through my revelations, through therapy, I've learned that like I complete me. Everyone else is like definitely help show the door, but I have to be the one who walks through it, throwing in a Matrix reference, and then like, because like everyone else has definitely helped me along the way. I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I have never said this before, but like, you guys are part of my mental health journey because you gave me purpose. You gave me an outlet for me to be creative in being an editor for your channel, and so that's been really great for me, and it's allowed me to really kind of explore that part of myself again. Like as a result, I'm working on trying to build up more of my editing resume. I was doing a little bit of Muay Thai actually before I had my mental kind of breakdown. I want to get back into martial arts again, actually. And like, if you want to be, here's my thing. Like, if you want to be the alpha male that Tyler Durden says you ought to be, here's how I think you should do it. You learn to build new skills, improve on the ones you already have, learn to be at peace with yourself. You help others through positivity and in a healthy manner. And then from there, that's purpose. That's life. You don't, definitely kids is definitely it's never off the table, but definitely I can definitely see that part. But that's a lot of what that's where I definitely find myself tying it back all together with the narrator, because the narrator learns that, like, oh wow, my purpose, I don't have a purpose, but I have, I realize I'm in love with Marla. I have meaning. I have a reason to, like, want to protect her from everything that's happening from Tyler, that sort of thing. And, like, this is what it actually means to be a man, is to, like, learn to balance my id with my super ego and be whole. That's really what it is. And that's really where that's what I've resonated, coming from the message of Fight Club, and what I've resonated with, what my personal revelations that I've come through in my sort of, like, journey, as it were, throughout the end of 2021 till now, as of this recording. So that's what I've taken away from it. And it's weird watching Fight Club, because, like, it's reminded me of just how much, like, this is where I could have gone. Like, this is, because I definitely was at that point where, like, definitely not the point where I could have fallen victim to like manosphere content or whatnot, because I like to think my parents did a pretty damn good job, especially my mom, for sure, but and definitely my dad too. But the point is like, I feel for a lot of those guys who fall victim to that content, because then they're the mindless drones of that Project Mayhem, and those Tyler Durtons are taking advantage of them for their own personal gain, and that doesn't benefit anybody at all.
That's how Jordan Peterson feels.
Yeah, I kind of want to respond to some of the stuff that you said there, because there's actually a lot more parallels between you and I than I think that you realize. So I will say this.
Sorry, by the way, if this gets really personal, folks. We were just talking about an innocent movie about two guys beating the shit out of each other in a Fight Club.
It's not an innocent movie.
No, it's actually about to get more personal here too. It actually, I think even the timelines line up. I was going through a really dark phase in my life around the same time that you were as well. I think I was going through it for a couple of years. I actually ended up going to therapy as well, and the therapy helped me out a lot, because she actually just basically helped me get my own thoughts in order to move forward. One thing I would at least give to you as, like, a piece of advice, you're never actually done, right? Like, just because you go
absolutely.
to therapy,
I would definitely agree with that.
You got a lot of stuff figured out, but definitely not everything. So you're never actually complete. So there's that journey of trying to make yourself better, more fulfilled. That's actually a lifelong endeavor. And same as you, it was actually very shortly after I started therapy is when I started this idea of starting POG with Marshall. And so just like you, and again, I didn't just start POG because I want to just sit in front of a camera and talk about video games. A lot of it actually has to do with what I said about the internet. I think the internet is a terrible and toxic place. And unfortunately, YouTube gaming is one of those platforms where you get a lot of really bad, and they're actually called influencers too, but they're also influencing really bad ideas. So my idea is to kind of take, like, this video gaming YouTube channel idea as a Trojan horse to get in front of the youths, and then actually try to promote more of, like, a positive and hopeful message along some of the themes that we're talking about today. So in a way, both you and Marshall have also helped me find a sense of purpose as well. But I would also say this, my wife and I, we've had a lot of problems with having kids. Some of them were very heartbreaking. Not going to get into that right now. But now currently, as we sit, I could get a phone call at any minute saying that my wife has gone into labor and we're about to, have our first kid, or having a little girl. I could not be more excited about that. And I think one of the things for me that is really amazing about it is that I see young parents these days. A lot of them will always give you advice when you're an expecting parent, saying, like, oh, you'll never sleep again, you'll never have any personal time, like all this stuff. And to me, it's like,
that's advice.
Yeah.
You're like, too little, too late.
It's like you just prepare for a life of misery. And to me, it's like, no, it's not. I have lived my whole life for myself up till this point, and that has not got me very far. That got me into therapy. even being happily married for a few years before, there was just still something missing. And I will admit, I have been raised, I wouldn't say, well, maybe partially some of it's been raised, but I have always had a very arrogant kind of womanizing, almost like Tyler Durden sort of a masculinity sort of mentality about life. I was super arrogant, thought that my shit didn't stink and I had things figured out. And again, that did not get me very far. It actually took me being a little bit more civilized and sensitive to like the needs of, say, my wife to help me learn what it means to be a good person. You have to give a lot of yourself to something that is greater than yourself to find purpose. One final point, because you were talking about how people can live lives without family and kids and still live a fulfilling life. Yes, I think that that's true. However, I think that's a far more indirect route, right? Because I think that in order to live a life that has meaning and purpose behind it, as one very straight to the point example, is you want to try to leave the world a better place. You want to leave an impact, right? So even if you have all the creativity in the world and you're amazing or capable of doing amazing things, that is also just not enough unless you're actually making a positive impact on people around you to make the world a better place. And I think that having kids and a family is actually pretty much a streamlined way of actually achieving that kind of purpose. Not the only way, but I think the road is a lot longer, without doing it that way, if that makes sense.
So to tie it back to Fight Club.
That's right. We're talking about Fight Club today.
I know. So, by the way, this is what me and Jeff do all the time.
What are you?
Yeah.
Me and Jeff do this all the way up by the time too. So, like,
Oh,
we're in
real
good
quick,
company.
I was scrolling through your videos the other day. I'm sad I missed Tremors.
Oh,
I would have had a lot more fun on that one.
oh yeah, Tremors is amazing.
So good. You guys did three of them. You did 3 of the 4.
Oh, we've done 4.
Oh, really?
We've done
Man.
the first 4. We want to do the other movies at some point, but anyways, but to tie it back together, so like this is as in a weird way, it is like the weird messed up way that Tyler and the narrator can contribute their legacy to the world is through Fight Club. They give men an outlet to like release their aggressions and tensions and like beat the shit out of each other. Doesn't solve anything. It's just, yeah, we're men and we're shaking hands, we're doing this. It's just a way to feel like ourselves. And like there are ways to definitely do that in life. And I think the points that both me and Shawn, and I would even say Marshall, even though Marshall hasn't really said anything, I'll be honest, but I think we can all
You
agree
guys
that
had the
like all the
spotlight.
points we've said here definitely can point to like this is how to do Fight Club, but without all the punching and without like all the aggression.
Can I actually disagree with one quick thing there?
Okay,
Sorry,
sure.
were you going to say something?
Can I?
Mike?
You asked. Can I disagree with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
Okay, sure.
Okay.
Mine's after.
Yeah, so I actually don't think that Fight Club is a contribution to the world to make the world a better place. I think that Fight Club in a way is kind of a metaphor for, say, like hedonism, right? It's instant gratification, kind of pleasure in
absolutely.
the moment sort of a thing, which is
Right,
also
right,
not
right.
a good way to live life. I mean,
Right. No. My point was more like just like Tyler and the narrator's contribution, like in their own messed up, twisted way, was creating Fight Club, and I'm saying like you can do there are ways to do that, but without creating a club like that leads to a Project Mayhem sort of situation. That's kind of the point I'm getting at. But as you were saying,
yeah, no, it's just I think that the positive contributions that the narrator makes to the world and to society actually comes after the movie is over, right? The whole movie is about him hitting rock bottom and then starting off a new life to where he can be a fulfilled person. So I don't think that anything you see in the movie is anything that he is doing to live a fulfilled life. It's him being broken all the way down and then starting over, and then now he has hope. Like the whole movie is dark, and then at the very end you actually see the sun coming up
sort of
after
it's
all
more
the
like
wreckage and everything.
it's more like you see the buildings blow up.
I think
all
that the
credit card
sunrise
companies-
actually starts too when he's sitting there at the end talking to Marla, saying, "I'm sorry, you caught me in like a really weird point in my life right now," or something like that.
You met me at a really strange time in my life.
Yeah, the sun
I
starts
remember.
actually rising at that moment. I think that's
And then
a
there's
symbolism.
and then there's the
and
still
then there's
of
the
dick.
big cock. Yeah. So sorry, Marshall. What were you
Nice
gonna say?
big
You're good.
cock.
It seems that the movie, it starts out really weird, right? But it takes a turn. It's not during the flight when he meets Tyler, but that's kind of a precursor to it. He gets home, and his apartment is destroyed, right? And I feel like at that moment, everything really takes a shift. I mean, he goes to this abandoned house. Who would go? You wouldn't just go live in this house, right? I'm wondering, is any of it real after that point? Like,
that is a good point.
I think the biggest thing is Fight Club real? Because at the end of the day, he's beating the shit out of himself. Well, maybe that's the point. That's the premise. It's not even real. He's just fighting himself.
Yeah, it's a metaphor. It's the
internal.
inner battle that we all have with our own inner demons. And
Right.
a lot of times demons can be very enticing, like how Tyler Durden is, but he's still kind of an inner demon of him, and we always have to battle those. So in his case, he gave into his demon and then realized it was bad, and it actually took the love for a woman to pull him out of that. That's actually a thought that I didn't even really think about until you just said that, Marshall.
I was thinking
good
about it as
insight.
we've been talking about it. It's like, well, I mean, I already knew that Tyler and him were the same person, but as we've been kind of going into it, I'm thinking like, if they're the same person, then he clearly wasn't just standing outside of a bar hitting himself in the face, right? So maybe,
Well, he was.
but he probably wasn't. My point is, it was all internal. Everything from that moment when he got home and didn't he burn his own fucking apartment down or something?
Yeah.
So it's like from that moment that he hit bottom, when he realized it was over, he just quit. And from that point on, it was
started becoming Tyler Durden.
And that's why I think maybe Fight Club isn't even actually real. It
was real because there actually was other people.
Yeah,
that were...
but that could all be internal in his mind. All of it, everything that happened could have been internal.
That's definitely an interesting way.
I guess
to
just
look
my point is
that way.
Maybe it was all inside of him from that moment on the
So you're
flight.
saying he never even
right
fell in
before.
love with Marla in the first place?
Maybe. I mean, I'm not trying to go super deep on that. Maybe it was in and out and that kind of thing. But I think that the whole idea of him fighting Tyler was not to fight someone. It was likely him on the inside fighting with himself, which clearly it was. But I mean, maybe that's actually what it was. Maybe everything was fake. I don't know.
Yeah, that's definitely a thing too. That's definitely something that I believe that like film scholars and just film like buffs will definitely analyze as like, did it, like how much of it actually happened. It's kind of like an American Psycho thing, isn't it too? Is like, did everything Patrick Bateman do actually happen, or was it all in his head? That sort of thing.
Well,
That's
and
a
there's
good way to approach it.
Yeah, and there's no way to for sure answer it either. So it's more of just speculation.
Well, I think that it actually it can be answered, at least in a way, because if everything that did happen after that wasn't actually real, then that renders all of the other points that the movie makes almost pretty much meaningless, because the movie tackles problems like we talked about, consumerism.
Consumerism was already tackled by then.
Right, but it's still it's tackling the problem and coming up with, like, say, the solution of it, right? So it deals with all those problems, but it happens in both the micro and the macro. The micro being in the individual, in the narrator himself, and then the macro addresses the problem at a societal level. If the whole story is about him and everything is fake, then that means that all of the outside societal influences of it were also fake. But I don't think that's the point that the movie is trying to address. I think it's actually trying to address those problems in society as well as the individual, and it manifests in both, which means that it has to still be real and exist.
Or it's the individual's views of how society views and changes. And
true, but Bob was real. Bob was a real person before.
Yeah, Bob was a real person. Bob and those bitch tits.
And Bob could have been a figment of his imagination afterwards, because he knows Bob in real life.
I mean, like either way, the point of the truth of the matter is like everything that we have talked about so far, like in this entire installment, has basically been like a lot of like we definitely know now what this movie definitely like represents and what it's meant to us individually, like for us, but back then a lot of people missed the point, and it sounds like a lot of people still miss the point for a lot of the reasons we said too. Like, do you know how many like fight clubs were set up as well as a result of this movie? Like,
actually, I think there's probably a lot of points that we've missed as well. Like, there's a lot of symbolism that is probably that we didn't even pick up on.
Right, but what I'm getting at is like the thing is that a lot of people just glance over all of that, and it's just like they look at Fight Club and they see like, oh, this is how to be a man, or this is how we gain back our individualism and stuff or whatnot. And so I don't know if you guys back in like when the movie came out, like there were all these, like I said, all these fight clubs started popping up out of nowhere. Everyone was breaking. No one would break into the rules, but they kept being found anyway. Like apparently, there is one popular story I learned where it's like Brigham Young University, which is a school in Utah. It's a university that's run by Mormons, but apparently they had as many as about 700 or maybe 300 students in their fight club, and that got really kind of crazy and out of hand too. So that was really kind of a thing. So that's really kind of something. Something to ponder there.
Hold up. Sorry. Actually, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay. First rule about Fight Club: don't talk about Fight Club. What's the second rule about Fight Club?
You don't talk about
Fight Club.
Right. In his head, he would be telling himself over and over, 2 times, not to talk about what's going on in his head.
The point is, like a lot of people, like I said, a lot of people who saw Fight Club breezed over that, and like I mentioned earlier, like all that manosphere content or whatnot, they look at Fight Club as a bible of like, this is how you gain back your masculinity and stuff. Everyone looks at it surface level and thinks that this is what Fight Club is about, and clearly, and as hopefully as we've demonstrated here, that's not what Fight Club is really about. It's about learning to accept who you are and learn to
it's like
be
what Marshall
a better person.
Yeah, it's like what Marshall said, is that they're getting the exact wrong idea if that's your takeaway, because the whole point of the movie is that this is
wrong.
What you don't
This
do.
is all wrong.
This is how you go down to a path
This is a cautionary tale of what not to do.
And I can't believe they couldn't get that idea from the tones and the filters and the darkness in the movie. It's like everything is wrong.
Mm-hmm. And that, again, it speaks to the demons that live inside of us, that says that the demons are very enticing. You see somebody like Tyler Durden. It is very enticing, especially in a culture where a lot of men are feeling demasculated in real life. They crave and cling to an example of what they want to be, but they're still. So it actually creates this manosphere that you're talking about. The culture that we live in created a vacuum for masculinity, and then it just gets filled with a bad version of it, and it gets embraced.
Yeah, that is the sad reality of it all. Really, it is what it is. But hopefully by having these conversations and like really kind of deconstructing what Fight Club is really all about, maybe people will hopefully look at it at a better light and see for what the message is really all about. And it's like it's everything we said.
Yeah.
This is a very cautionary tale of like, if you don't want hypermasculinity or toxic masculinity, this is how to not get there and go from there. But so like I'm gonna say it. So I think overall, like even though Marshall, I know you're not a fan, you've raised some pretty good, interesting points overall. And
I've got one more.
Okay.
As we've learned tonight, the first rule about Fight Club is talk about Fight Club. No, and I don't mean that as a joke.
Right.
Talk about the struggles and the demons that are going on inside your head and the things that you see and read about and learn about. Talk about this stuff. with somebody.
Don't let it stew inside until
And
it
become a Tyler
violently
Durden.
comes out.
Don't get stuck in an echo chamber. Don't fall for bad habits. Don't be on the internet as much. I would also recommend like find some positive people in your life. Look up to healthier role models, as it were. Like if you want a good example of like a really good like YouTube channel that analyzes has like really positive role models and also loves talking about movies through like a therapeutic lens, I recommend a channel called Cinema Therapy, where they look through so it's a therapist and a filmmaker. They're best friends from college, and they watch movies and they tackle like characters and themes through a therapy lens and how they would apply like mental health and stuff, like from learning these lessons and stuff or whatnot. And Alan and Jonathan, the two guys, well, Jonathan is the therapist and Alan is the filmmaker. These guys are like internet dads. Like they are like some of the most positive like videos I've seen. Their breakdown on Fight Club is actually what made me want to talk about Fight Club here. And I'm glad I'm able to talk about it here with you guys. And I recommend everyone like don't bottle it in. Like seek out therapy if you need to. Actually, I really do recommend therapy. It's actually done pretty great wonders for me. And it's done really well for Shawn too. Find your inner center, if you will, and just be a positive role model for others, and try and find purpose in your life. But don't do it by starting a fight club and then also creating a shadowy terrorist organization on top of that too. So
which is exactly right, because again, the darkest point of the whole thing is that you walk down that path, you end up with a bullet in your head by yourself that you did to yourself.
I mean, we don't recommend killing yourself.
No, but that's what I'm saying. That's the cautionary tale, right? It's like this is a path to where you like shoot yourself. I actually think that's one of the darkest messages that's behind the movie. It's terrible and tragic, but it's just I think why I like it is because it a little bit too real. If you get consumed by the darkness and the demons, there's a chance that you can end up with a bullet in your head, and you might not be as lucky as the narrator.
Yeah, it's true. It's definitely something that, I mean, like I definitely feel like I could have gone there at one point. And it sounds like we all could have gone down that point at one point or another in our lives, but
just part of being human.
Yeah,
man.
just learn to better respect and love yourself, and learn to be a better, positive, healthy man. On top of that, learn what positive masculinity is and learn to pass it on, so that you don't end up with like all these unfortunate young men out there who just feel directionless. And step outside too, like meet somebody, as it were. You never know, or just find a group that you want to hang out with and just do that stuff. That's how it is. But
live life.
I'm going to be honest. I did not expect this video to get really deep, or this episode to get really deep. So, I think that's gonna do it. I did not expect this to be a very therapeutic episode, as it were, for this show or whatnot. But
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that we all enjoy the kind of therapeutic elements of this conversation for sure.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah. But so Marshall, Shawn, where can we reach you guys? Obviously, your YouTube channel, Philosophy of Gaming or Pod Gaming. But like, do you guys have Instagram? Do you have like a TikTok as well?
Yeah, Marshall, what's all of our social media stuff?
Yeah, it's a good question. We're going to make sure that it's posted on screen right now. It's either Philosophy of Gaming or Pog Gaming, something to that effect. I believe Instagram is Philosophy of Gaming. Check out our YouTube channel. I'm sure we'll have link in the description for that.
But basically, the YouTube channel is, if you want to follow us, that is going to be the place where we're doing pretty much everything that we do, is the Philosophy of Gaming YouTube channel.
Absolutely.
And if you want to see me like rib into these guys through my editing, that's where you can check that out. So
that's right.
Marshall, Shawn, I really appreciate you guys coming on to talk. I'm really sad that Jeff was not here to discuss this, but with us, but I feel like he's gonna listen to this and he's gonna be like, "Fuck, I missed out." But anyways, guys, I appreciate you guys coming on to the show. Be sure to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Leave comments down in the comment section. Let us know what you want us to talk about, or like any suggestions for any videos and stuff. How do you feel about this certain topic or what that we're discussing today? Be sure to follow the Instagram channel for TNAAPcast. That's TNAAPcast. And yeah. Also, we're on Spotify and Apple Podcasts as well. But, gentlemen, it has been a pleasure, and I'm going to say thank you guys for checking out this installment of the show. We'll be back. Jeff will be back, I promise you. And I do apologize, by the way, for all the listeners and viewers on the frequency, just because me and Jeff have been so busy with like life and whatnot. But I'm just going to say this, guys. Stay shiny, everybody. You have a good one.
Thank you for having us, man.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. All right. Well, that was the conversation itself. Definitely something that definitely was very much. It was definitely a very deep conversation. It's probably one of the most open conversations I've had on the show itself overall. There is a couple things I should probably point out. The first and foremost, the one I kept thinking about the entire time after I edited this was just like, oh, why did I start with, when I finally started talking about how like Fight Club is referenced as a Bible in the manosphere, and how they do not realize that the author Chuck Palahniuk is very much someone who didn't go about that. I said that like, yes, it's written by a gay man, and I'm like, I really should not have started off that way with him, because that's not what defines him. What defines him is that he's a fantastic author, and I'm like, the point there I was getting with that is that like he was the kind of person who would definitely disapprove of what that whole manosphere like represents and how they interpret his film, or I mean his book, but still his work in general. But that's definitely something that I'm like, yeah, he wouldn't be a fan of what they're preaching for sure. And then there's definitely some stuff in like cut out just because of like our camera quality was just kind of shit, so we just had to work with what we got, at least on my end. So it was that, and that sucked because there's quite a bit of good stuff I had to cut out, but unfortunately it was all there. But I think overall we did a pretty good job with this. Since this podcast episode, since the recording, Shawn is now a father. Wonderful child. I've seen the pictures, and congratulations, Shawn. You're doing great. A lot has happened since that recording. Philosophy Gaming is like up now to like almost like 200 subscribers at this point. They're doing pretty great, and I'm still making their videos, at least the videos they want me to edit for them, and I'm still doing that, and I will definitely keep doing that. But the real thing I should probably address is why this took so long. And I'll be honest, there was quite a lot. I'm not trying to make any excuses, because this really should have come out a lot sooner, and I really do apologize. But I didn't like. That whole manosphere like rabbit hole was just like so mentally draining that I'm like, this is so that like anytime I hear into that, I'm just like, I don't like listening to this, and I just become like a complete, almost like really get the tension builds up in me, and I'm like, I don't need that. So I was trying to get away from that and just focus on myself mentally. And then all these videos are really kind of, I'll be honest, like this kind of video to edit, like if it was pure audio, perfect, easy to edit. But since I'm doing video, like, God, it just takes so much time, and I'm like, I just couldn't do it. And so, which leads me into my next bit is this the end of Two Nerdskis and a Podcast? I don't want to say yes, it's the end, because I don't think it is. It's just more, me and Jeff are just so busy with what we've got going on in our lives that like it's almost kind of impossible to record anymore, and then we're just so busy doing our own stuff. So, never say never. I do feel like, though, that we will come back in some way, but I'm just going to leave it at that in terms of the future of Two Nerdskis, but don't count us out, because we probably will for sure be back at some point. But other than that, I think that's going to do it. And I will reiterate what I said at the end of Fight Club's conversation. And please stay shiny, and I mean that physically and mentally. Please, everybody, have a good one.
Next level.